Hello. So we've been talking a lot about trees lately. We did our tree investigation this week. Last week we listened to this book, The Gift of the Tree, that Mrs. Skiffington read to us. And in this book, this tree is home to many animals, and eventually this tree dies, right? But when it dies, it actually goes back into the earth and helps even more animals. Do you remember that? So it kind of naturally dies, right? It's old, it grows old, and it naturally dies. So today we are going to be reading another book about a tree, and this book is one of my favorites. It's called The Great Kapok Tree, and it's not a true story, but the author does use some real information in the story. So you can still learn from it, even though it's not a real story. And it's all about, it's set in the setting is a rainforest. This one is a tropical rainforest. And you can see on the cover, this is what a rainforest looks like with all these animals. A rainforest is a special kind of forest that's hot and rainy. And many different kinds of plants and animals live there. So the author is Lynn, and the book is The Great Kapok Tree. So in kindergarten, we've learned about a lot of different kinds of communities, right? We have our community in school, our classroom community, our school community. And in this book, there is a community of animals. And they live in the rainforest where the book is set. And there's a lot of information on this inside cover. This is what the different parts of the rainforest look like. There's the understory, the canopy, and the emergent level up at the top. So different kinds of animals live in different places. And this is a map of the world, and the green parts are where there are rainforests in the world. And this is actually the rainforest where this story takes place is partly in Brazil, which some of our friends are from Brazil. So there's a little note from the author here at the beginning that teaches us a little bit about the rainforest. In the Amazon rainforest, it's always hot. And in that heat, everything grows and grows and grows. The tops of the trees in the rainforest are called the canopy. The canopy is a sunny place that touches the sky. The animals that live there like lots of light. Colorful parrots fly from tree to tree. Monkeys leap from branch to branch. The bottom of the rainforest is called the understory. The animals that live in the understory like darkness. There, silent snakes curl around hanging vines. Graceful jaguars watch and wait. And in this steamy environment, the great kapok tree shoots up through the forest and emerges above the canopy. This is the story of a community of animals that live in one such tree in the rainforest. So kapok tree has its roots down in the understory and goes all the way up to the top of the rainforest. I hope you guys can see. I think I might turn on another light. There, I think that's better. Two men walk into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the great kapok tree. Then he left. So here's the great kapok tree. Here. Here's the one man, and this is the man who pointed up and then left. The smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest at the foot of the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest had lulled him to sleep. can see the really big base of the tree with the roots going down into the soil. A boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear, "Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home where generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down." A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. "Senor, buzz, my hive is in this kapok tree, and I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting the pollen. In this way, I pollinate the tree and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all living things depend on one another." Buzz. So that word depend means that the living things need each other to live and be well. In a community, people and animals depend on each other like we depend on each other to do our jobs in the classroom every day. So the bee's job is to pollinate the flowers to make new flowers. We learned about that in our Gail Gibbons book. A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man, "Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away, and the forest will become a desert." A toucan, a macaw, and a cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. So this one is the toucan. There's the macaw, it's a parrot. And this one is the cock of the rock. They're all types of birds. "Senor," squawked the toucan, "you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and seen what happens once you begin to chop down the trees. Many people settle on the land. They set fires to clear the underbrush, and soon the forest disappears. Where once there was beauty and life, only black and smoldering ruins remain." So ruin means to hurt something, right? Or break something. So when they cut down the trees to build homes and cities and buildings, they ruin the rainforest. A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear, "Senor! A ruined rainforest means ruined lives. Many ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree." A jaguar had been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree. Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and padded silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear, "Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner?" Four tree porcupines swung down from branch to branch and whispered to the man, "Senor, do you know what we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forests, you will destroy that which gives us all life." Several anteaters climbed down to the kapok tree with their young clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, "Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought for the future, and surely you know what happens tomorrow depends on what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. How does he does not think of his own children, who tomorrow must live in a world without trees?" What do you guys think? Think about that for a minute. Can you imagine living in a world without trees? Try that. Try closing your eyes and imagining what it would be like if there were no trees in our world. A three-toed sloth had begun climbing down from the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground, plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man. She spoke in her deep and lazy voice. "Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroyed the beauty of the rainforest, on what would you feast your eyes?" A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, "Senor, when you awake, please look upon us all with new eyes." The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depended on the great kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. Look at all those animals that depend on the kapok tree. So wondrous means something that's very, very good and special, and rare means that it's unusual and hard to find. So some of the plants and animals that grow in the rainforest, that is the only place in the whole world that they grow. So they're very rare. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of their flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor, but he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely silent. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree, but suddenly he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. What do you guys think he's thinking right here? After all those animals whispered in his ear when he was sleeping, and he got to see them all, and they're all watching him with that axe. What do you think he might be thinking? He hesitated. That means he paused. Then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest. So the author of this book, Lynn, had a very important purpose for writing this story. And at the end of the book, she writes us a letter to tell us why she decided to write her story, what her purpose was. Dear readers, I wrote The Great Kapok Tree to let the world know what happens to the rainforest creatures and to the entire planet when rainforests are destroyed. I hope that after reading this book, you will help save the rainforests. The Great Kapok Tree is about the Amazon rainforest, a tropical rainforest, but we have a temperate rainforest in the Pacific Northwest of the United States that we must protect too. Please care for Mother Earth. Together we can make a difference. Lynn Cherry. So Lynn Cherry is trying to persuade us, to convince us to take care of the earth. And she did this using a story with the animals. So if we look back at this story, we can find all these reasons that the animals tell us, right? That we shouldn't cut down the rainforest, right? That we should protect it. There's the bees who need the flowers to pollinate. The trees hold the soil together and prevent it from running off into rivers and creating deserts. It won't be beautiful anymore. Animals will be homeless. They won't have anything to eat. Trees and plants give us oxygen to breathe, which we need. And our children, the ones who come after us, won't have any trees in the world. Is it worth it? Do we need to cut down those trees? Do we need the things that we make out of the wood? It's a pretty good argument that she used to persuade us to help her to save the rainforest, don't you think? I think so.